evening, Cardinals and Cubs fans. It's been a busy week for the Team Rivals podcast. Been traveling all around the country. But we're all back in our home studio tonight, and we're going to discuss the first 9 games that the Cubs and Cardinals have played this weekend, and especially about what happened today between the Arizona Diamondbacks manager and our beloved catcher. The Cubs taking 3 out of 4 from Brew, and a little bit of surprise tonight, if you love the space genre like we do. Team Rivals podcast starts now.
Smith corks one into right down the line. It may go. Go crazy, folks. Go crazy. There's a drive. Way back. It might be. It could be. Playing a high drive into left. Back towards the crane. He's at the track. He has it. He's the world champion for 2011. A little bounce is slowly toward right. He will glove it toward Rizzo. It's in time. And the Chicago Cubs win the World Series.
This is the Team of Rivals podcast. No insiders, no anonymous sources, just passionate analysis from the bleacher seats. Here are your hosts, Ron Nuttall and Peter Geddes.
All right, gentlemen, it's good to be back in the home studio this week. My goodness, that was a busy week. Pete, I know we got to talk a bit on Thursday night. I'm not sure how much Elliot caught of this conversation, but
I don't know how much of Thursday Elliot remembers.
Yeah, I hope you had fun at that game, man. It was fun.
Oh, I did. It was great.
The break-in, because we took you were priority. Whenever we heard sound come through your line, Pete and I shut up, which is hard for us. But we did it.
And I appreciate it.
What did he come on that one time? He was like, guys, I figured out if I just put the thing to my ear, and I thought you were just going to stop there. That was the breaking headline.
I was having trouble hearing because it wasn't actually coming out of the earpiece. It was coming out of the bottom speaker of the phone. Gotcha. I was having trouble going like this back and forth.
No, do that faster. Do that faster. Yeah. Show us again. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. There's again.
Right, so last week for me was quite a trip, and we ended up at the beach, long 9.5 hour trip according to Google Maps. On the way back, ended up being 12. Spring break traffic is for real, folks. So if you're headed south, try to avoid these 2 weeks out of the year. It's awful, and I'm exhausted. But man, am I thrilled to be back in a familiar surrounding and not doing this thing through an iPhone. I don't know how anybody does it. It's awful. So guys, there's I know Pete, we got to touch on a few things. We didn't get the chance to go really deep into any of our observations or our thinking, at least over the first I think it was only maybe 5 or 6 games when we had talked on Thursday night. Mm-hmm. So now's our chance to go into a little bit more of those things. And Elliot, I want to hear about your Miller Park experience later too, because although it's a unique stadium, to me it feels like an airplane hangar that somebody accidentally built a ball diamond in the middle of. So I want to get your impression on Miller Park.
Sure.
So I sound like a pompous fan who has a nice stadium now, and I ignore the fact that we had one of those cookie cutters. I loved the old Busch Stadium 2. For those of you that are purists that are fact checking me, I loved it for what it was, but once you have something like we have now, it's great. And of course, you're going to throw Wrigley right in my face. That's fine.
Hey, it's okay. If you guys want to copy us by building trying to build a neighborhood around your throwback, rather than, you have
to build something in downtown St. Louis right now
with
that community.
With the neighborhood actually around it. It's okay. You can copy the best things that we do. It's fine.
I don't really know where to go with that.
Yeah, exactly. There's no point to be made. I know where to go with it though.
Yeah. Go ahead.
You can find us everywhere at teamofrivalspodcast.com. On Facebook, Just search for Team of Rivals Podcast. On Twitter at Team of Rivals Pod. On Instagram at Team of Rivals Podcast. And for those of you watching us live, you can catch us tomorrow anywhere you listen to podcasts, including iTunes, Radio Public, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Spotify, TuneIn, and Google Play. And as always, don't forget, visit the team store on Zazzle.
Hey, I want to throw out another. I put this out on our Facebook page about Radio Public, and Pete, you've hit on it many times before. But Radio Public, I've now put a player at the top of our website. Well, I think it's a half a scroll down, just above the fold.
Yep.
And but if you're listening through the internet, if that's your thing, go to our website that Pete just referenced. It's teamofrivalspodcast.com. Play it right from there. It doesn't cost you anything, not a cent, nothing. But it throws a few pennies our way. Those add up, and we use it all to cover the production costs of this show each month.
Which you can tell right now aren't very high.
You can tell right now. It's all out of pocket right now. It has been for a while, Pete.
Yeah, it has.
Yeah. Guys, we're 9 games in. The Cubs are 5-4. The Cardinals are 4-5.
And as we expected, the Pirates are leading the division at 7-2.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Well, who have the Pirates played? Pete, look that up.
Okay,
folks, you can always tell when Pete's looking at the internet because his mouth is slightly open. He's like a 12-year-old playing a video game. If anybody that wants to,
or like Ron reading a book.
I don't have my mouth open when I'm listening to an audiobook. What the hell are you talking about?
I said reading. Your lips move.
Right, guys. I want to do something fun tonight. We weren't able to figure it out because we need a 14-year-old computer whiz to show these old men, these middle-aged guys in the midst of a midlife crisis. Some of us are on the we're on the inner core of midlife crisis. We haven't reached the extreme outer limits yet of trying to dye our hair.
I did that enough when I was in college and in high school. I've never
dyed
going
gray in college and high school.
Actually, yes, I did. I started going gray when I was.
Brother! All right.
So I would get people behind me at their desk going, "Oh, what do you got back here? This little gray patch." And so I started going bleach blonde for a while.
All right. So in answer to your question, Sensei,
yes.
They opened the season against the Tigers, and all of a sudden the calendar doesn't want to show me. Huh.
The Tigers Tigers are 500. They're not off to a bad start. Well, they were 500 as of this morning, I believe.
Yeah, so they opened the season against the Tigers and then the Twins, and just wrapped up the series against the Reds.
Well, yeah, the Reds are one thing, but yeah, the Tigers, you thought they could have easily taken 2 out. Maybe they did. I guess they did take 2 out of 3. But the Twins were a playoff team last year, so.
Right.
I mean, not the easiest schedule, but definitely not the most difficult, but not as easy as I would have expected.
Well, everything will go back tomorrow.
I thought they played their first 9 against the Reds, and that's why they ended up 7-2.
Well, everything will return to normal tomorrow when they open in the cold and snow at Wrigley Field.
There you go.
Well, and yeah, I mean, there are 4 games, and then against the Reds, and the 2 games against the Twins were all at home. So they pretty much, I mean, they had the 2 against the Tigers away, and then the rest were at home. So they had that benefit of being in their home ballpark for their majority of their first games. So
no, they opened a 3-game set against the Tigers.
They opened that in Pittsburgh. Okay. Well, the Tigers were not off to a bad start. I mean, they're around 500, I think, as of this morning. I don't know where they ended up tonight, but yeah. So you're right, Pete. The Pirates 7-2, just as we thought.
Yeah, I think Elliott predicted that right after Ian Happ's 15 home runs. Lead off home runs.
What's he up to now? What's the Ian Happ count up to now?
1.
I think it's 15 strikeouts. He got 15 already.
Yeah.
Strikeouts.
15 strikeouts in his first 16 at bats.
Speaking of strikeouts, we have a shortstop that has a little bit of a strikeout habit right now, and that's Paul DeYoung. So the power is there still, but it's a bit of a cause for concern. We'll talk about the Cardinals lineup a little bit later. So you have the Pirates coming to town. Who's lined up for the rotation to face them? For your Cubs
started today, so unless I'm mistaken, I believe it's scheduled to go in the Chatwood, Lester Hendricks. Mm-hmm. Is that right? No, Chatwood, Lester, Darvish.
No.
Darvish threw yesterday, right?
Yeah, Darvish threw yesterday, and Lester threw before that, so it's got to be.
Yeah, Chatwood. It's going to be Chatwood, Lester, Hendricks.
Yeah,
you were right the first time.
Okay, that's not a surprise.
Shut up. Unbelievable, right?
I am. Thank you for recognizing it.
All right. So just going through some of the things before we get into deep into Cardinals Cubs things. Can we get this out of the way? Ohtani.
My God, 7 or 6 and a third,
crap.
perfect.
Yeah,
today.
Yeah, looked great, and his last start wasn't bad either. So he's looking like, there's a chance he's the real deal. At least
And
what
he's
everybody.
He's not just hitting home runs; he's hitting bombs,
and not off scrubs. His second home run came off Corey Kluber.
Who's that?
Who?
Yeah. he just make it up this year.
Yeah, he just get called up. So I know that from my mouth, it was a lot of criticism over the media and fans hyping this guy up, and he didn't have a good spring. There was actually questions, I think, around baseball, probably writers and such, that were wondering, was it better to start him off in the minor leagues?
I think everybody felt a little nervous after the spring.
They did, yeah.
What the beginning of the season would bring, and he just kind of brushed it off and was like, "Okay, here's the start of the season. Let's perform."
Yeah, here's the season gear that I was avoiding.
Right.
Yeah. The way I would have thought that here's a player coming over trying to prove himself. I thought there would have been a better result in spring, but okay, and if that's the way he does that, that's cool. And I think if you go back and look at at least I've heard them talk about this, the history of Ichiro in his first spring, versus what he did in the regular season that year. Piniella was worried about him, I know, going into that year, and of course, once it started, the rest is history with that guy, right? Yep. So I don't know. Maybe it's just a routine. Maybe it's just the way things are done in Japan. I don't know much about it, but he looks rather impressive just looking at the highlights. I mean, I don't watch Angels games, but seeing the highlights of it, he has some pretty nasty stuff there, and he throws damn hard. So you mix all that together. And
one of the things that you rarely heard about is also the fact that he's one of the fastest guys in Major League Baseball.
And I know, it's unbelievable. The tool set he brings to that team. Yep. Elliot, you said it before we recorded tonight. How many of the other teams are like, damn, or teams that really didn't get involved are looking at this going, boy, that $30 million price doesn't seem too bad, right?
Right.
Maybe we should have.
You could have a guy right now with 2 wins and 3 home runs, which I saw today hasn't been done in 92 years. And
some guy named Ruth, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Didn't he pitch? Didn't the Padres pick him up in a Rule 5 draft?
No, I think that they passed on him because he was overweight.
And the Mariners ended up picking him up.
Yeah. And then they promptly traded him to the Yankees, I think.
Yeah. After the Mariners won out on a high stakes bidding war out of nowhere, and then they traded him to the Yankees. Yeah.
Jerry Dipoto traded him.
Yeah, that was great. Those are the days, man.
I wonder if Jerry Dipoto has like a clause in his contract that he gets bonuses once he hits 5 trades each month.
Maybe. I think it's poor upfront decision making and no shit later. I gotta do something about it. Don't get me going on the Padres, please. I already gave you guys. I already got it out yesterday via text.
Yeah, you did.
All right. So
maybe we need to get some classical music, and I can do a dramatic reading of Ron's rants. That could be a new segment.
Yeah, Ron's text from the week. That could be a good one.
Give it a British accent. We can just start it off. San Diego is 2-6. Yeah. Hey, Hosmer, how do you like being surrounded by a bunch of Rule 5 teammates? I think we've got a new segment. Ron's rants coming to the next episode of Team of Rivals podcast.
Yeah, I know. I don't save some of that stuff for the show because I don't think people want to hear me bitch about the Padres pilfering every organization.
You're right, they don't. But if we can turn it into a bit, well, I don't want to listen.
So how did Arrieta's first start go?
Not good.
Not good at all, right? I mean, not horrid, but he gave up a 3 spot in the first inning and was, at best, he was just okay.
Yeah, that sounds like the 2017 Cubs. First inning runs.
Yep.
Yeah. So guys, we all know this is like 1 or 2 games for each of these guys. Nobody's saying they're going to have a bad or a good year yet. But speaking of having a bad or good year yet, based on 1 start, you're a Cardinals fan, you have a major concern right now over Adam Wainwright.
Oh, yeah.
Most of us as Cardinal fans, we love the guy. We love what he's done for this organization. We love how he's represented it. We've loved how he's been a mentor and a teacher to younger players. We love that he does wonderful things for the clubhouse and for team chemistry. We respect all of that about Adam Wainwright. And there's not a team in this league that wouldn't have wanted that guy when he was in his prime, when he was going well. With that said, I'm worried. I know there are some Cardinal fans that are worried. I know there's some that are like, no way, he's coming back. You know, they're sure of it. We all hope that's right. But his debut didn't go that well. You wouldn't call it a disaster, but if it doesn't raise a flag, I don't think you're looking at it from a high enough vantage point. His velocity's down. He didn't make it out of 4 innings. There's just, like I said, Pete, I'm still holding what I said the other night. I mean, they're going to have a tough decision to make, because on any other team that wasn't quite in the position the Cardinals are right now, Jack Flaherty would be up. I mean, Jack Flaherty is a major leaguer right now, and the numbers are playing against him. In order to bring him up, somebody has to go. It's either by release. You have just a handful of pitchers now up with the 25-man roster that have options to go down. So if he can't pull it together, they're really going to have to make an uncomfortable decision. And moving him to the bullpen doesn't really fix anything, because, again, my point, somebody has to go. Who is it? Who are you going to DFA? Who are you going to DFA so San Diego can claim them later?
Well, and not only is it, I just don't think that moving him into the bullpen is an option, simply because of his stuff. I mean, he never was particularly overpowering anyway, but to come out of the bullpen throwing in the mid to upper 80s, you better have a lot more deception than most starting pitchers have, right? You need to have some kind of a funky look of some kind in order for that kind of velocity to play out of the bullpen. That's the way bullpens are constructed now. It's all about power.
Yeah, that's why guys who are submariners or something like that can make it by throwing that way. Or if you have 4 to 5 pitches that you can throw at any time.
Right. I mean, well, that's one way of thinking about it, right? Is that he doesn't have an awkward delivery. If you look at it, it's pretty standard, right? I mean, this is a kind of a textbook delivery. So he's not going to necessarily fool you in that way. So I just don't know if he doesn't pull it together. I just don't know what's going to happen. I mean, I hate to see for that happen to a guy like him, but at the same time, you can't keep running him out there every 5 starts if he can't make it past 4 or 5 innings.
And it's unfortunate, because you'd rather see a guy like that who's contributed so much to your organization have that walk off the field at the end of the season and never return, rather than an ignominious release 6 weeks into the season.
And if they do, then it's really going to eat up your bullpen, and you're going to be in trouble through the first month of the season.
And more importantly, again, you know, who has to go down? I mean, Mike Myers is the only guy they have. Well, I can't say that. I mean, I'm not 100% sure, but I think Mike Myers is one of the few, if not the only one, that has options to send down. And
has he even played in a game this year?
He pitched today.
Congratulations, Mike Myers! Welcome to 2018.
Now he did give up a home run. He only pitched 1 inning, but
even better.
No, I mean, he looked good though. He had a great spring training. I mean, again, I think
I hope he looked good. He's well rested.
Well, would you like your first game? You go out there in 30-some degree weather. Or I guess it was in the 40s, but you know, that's not a great time to make a debut. But so there's decisions they're going to have to make. I mean, throw Reyes into this mix. You know, he comes back in late May. They put him on the 60-day DL, which is probably a smart thing.
And the indication with that is that they're doing that because they're stretching him out now. They're not even thinking about bringing him back to come out of the bullpen.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that Jordan Hicks' success has had a lot to do with that.
Yeah. Well, and you just said Hicks, and he'd be the other guy that has options to go down, right? But the way he's been thrown, why the hell would you? You wouldn't. You would. There's no way you send that guy down right now. Not for a numbers game, and not with a bullpen that's been shaky. I mean, it has. They've looked good at times, but they have looked shaky. And then you have we didn't even talk about. I don't know if we talked about this on Thursday night, Pete. Remind me. Did we even mention Greg Holland?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we did.
Okay.
We did.
Okay.
Briefly.
But we missed it, right? I mean, because we did our 2
Yeah.
preview shows, and then on opening day they ended up landing a deal with him, which I didn't really see that coming. Right? I didn't hear any rumors, or it just showed up.
It happened quick.
Yeah, on opening day, it just showed up that they had reached an agreement and physical. He's set to join the team tomorrow, so they have to make one of these decisions tomorrow. It's probably going to be Myers that's I would guess that's going to be sent down so he can get some work in. There's no point in sitting him up here if he's going to go the first 8 games without seeing anything. So,
and how's that for timing, especially in light of what happened Thursday night? Because that if Greg Holland was still on the market, he would have been snapped up by the Brewers after Knebel got literally carried off the field.
Yeah. Well, and then the night before that, it was Dominic Leone who looked good in the 9th inning, and 2 pitches later, the Cardinals were up by 1, and 2 pitches later, game over, right? To Kristen Yelich and then Ryan Braun. Ryan Braun, come on, why did it have to be that guy? But it was. His eyes.
I tell you what, there was not a whole lot of cheering for him on Thursday night.
That's because there weren't a whole lot of Brewers fans in the house.
There were not.
No, and it's hard to tell, right? Because it's blue hats. So
yeah, it really
how'd
is.
you like that? Your first game with Milwaukee, and you're playing against Chicago, and you're like, man, it's a packed house. Look at all our fans. And then you're like, look closer. You're like, shit, man. Put your red C's on those hats.
I don't think you got to look very close. All you got to have to do is listen. The media for, I think it was yesterday's game, the reported attendance was 43,000. And I read somewhere one of the media estimated that about 30,000 of them were Cubs fans.
I don't doubt it.
So that plan that the Brewers came up with to prevent early ticket sales to Illinois residents, that's sure working out well for them.
Yeah.
Very successful.
Yep. Nice job.
Secondary market's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I think that they stole that plan from the Nashville Predators, and we all know how well that worked out.
Yeah.
Well, Ron, you probably
I don't. I don't. So Bryce Harper up to 6 home runs.
And only 5 strikeouts.
He is going to get paid.
Yeah,
he is.
That boy is going to get paid.
Yes, he is.
How much? Has our numbers changed yet? I mean, obviously this
Is he at $500 million?
Somebody threw out the other day. I think the number was, they speculated 12 years, 400 million. Which, if you stop and you think about it, that's not a bad deal for either side, right? And it's not a bad deal for Boris either. He gets to claim a $400 million contract. Bryce Harper gets gets a contract that ends up netting him $33 million per year. So he'll be the highest paid player in baseball. And yet the contract still ends at age 36. So he wouldn't be entirely, or no, not 36.
He's 26 right now, right?
He's 20.
Yeah.
30.
Yeah, he'll be 27.
So it wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility that he would still be able to sign one more contract.
Hey, who was it? Dems 2018 on Twitter. Would we really spend 45 minutes talking about where Harper was going to land?
No, we didn't spend that long.
What do you say? We needed Adderall that episode. And that was my fault. That was my fault.
I think he said it was 45 minutes on where Bryce Harper is going, the kid calling in, and Greg Holland. So it wasn't just on Bryce Harper.
Yeah, sorry. We're hard to track. They're Dems 2018. But I do have a question, guys. True or false? Is it against the law to throw a ball at someone's head for fun in New York?
I'm going to say false because, the Mets.
As long as you're having fun, it's legal.
Okay. It is illegal in the state of New York to throw a ball at somebody's head for fun. Follow-up question. True or false? The penalty for jumping off a building is death.
Depends on the height of the building.
Yeah. Am I jumping out of the first floor, or
doesn't specify?
If I do the first floor, do I have to kill myself afterwards for not?
Doesn't specify. And this is coming off the internet, so this is true.
It's got to be true.
Yep.
Duh. It's on the internet.
Definitive, man.
It is.
No arguing it. All right. So, there was one more note I had that was around baseball. Let me come back to that. So, Stanton, welcome to New York with your 5K game.
Yeah. How do you like that? He homers in his first game, a monster blast. Then he gets a 5K game and he gets booed.
Welcome to New York, man.
Yes, welcome to New York. You might want to rethink that.
It's what are you doing for me today?
Yeah, no kidding.
No shit. The fan base there has to be a lot just like a corporation. Like, oh, I delivered 2 or 3 years ago. You remember those results? Nope.
Yeah, nope. Nobody cares.
Last month. Yeah. All right, that was enough of that. So now we can go back into our baseball. Probably what anybody who's listening or will listen will prefer us to talk about.
Well, especially Dems to 2018.
Yeah.
Right.
Sorry, dude.
So we talked about. I went on a bit about the Cardinals pitching and any decisions that they're going to have to make coming up. They're going to be difficult ones. There's a lot of things to consider. Holland's coming up. Reyes will eventually be back. What do you do with Jack Flaherty? What do you do with Wainwright if you can't pull it together? I mean, these aren't terrible problems to have, guys. That means you have depth.
Right.
But I think just from a PR, showing respect to somebody who's been with you for a long time and had a lot of success in the long run, has had a lot of success. It's not an easy decision to make. So that's going to be very interesting to follow. And me personally, I at this point, I want to see Jack Flaherty up.
Already. So you've shifted a little bit because Thursday you said you give him 6 starts before you make a decision.
I give Adam Wainwright 6 starts. I still want to see Jack Flaherty up. It's hard to not want to see that guy up. I mean, look at the way he pitched in the 1 start he had.
Yep.
So I think he needs to be up. He is a major leaguer, but he's down there getting himself ready. And these players say all the right things when they get a microphone in front of them. You really don't know how the guy feels, but I'm sure there has to be just a bit of frustration because, God, what else do I have to do? But hopefully he understands it right now. Unfortunately, this is where the business side of this comes in, and it's a numbers game. Who can you afford to let go if you bring somebody up? And it's just difficult. So I know the Cubs aren't facing any of those problems right now with pitching.
Not yet.
And the one area that we were talking about all preseason that we were most worried about happens to be the strongest point of their pitching so far this season in the first 9 games.
Hey, here's a revelation. Throwing strikes actually works.
Yeah.
Go figure.
And you talk about somebody having good mechanics, Pete. You put that image up of John Lester's release point, that graph.
Oh my God.
That is amazing. That really is amazing.
Right? Every single pitch from the same spot. Good luck. If you can do that, that makes it that much more difficult to pick up what he's throwing because it's all coming from the same spot.
I mean, I don't even drink a beer out of the same spot on the mouth of this bottle. Imagine throwing 100-ish pitches from the exact same spot. I mean, it looked like a damn sniper target, right? Where, hey, just taking 5 shots and they've all, they're all like Robin Hood.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's impressive. So that's the pitcher you're talking about, the one you had the most concern for. Is that the one we're talking about, guys?
We're talking about just the bullpen.
Oh, I'm sorry. Right.
I believe they still have a sub-1 ERA in total for all the innings that they've
because
pitched.
They retired the last 11 batters they faced today.
How many save opportunities has Morrow had?
2
so far.
2.
Is he 2 for 2?
Yesterday and today.
Yes.
Before yesterday, he'd only thrown 2 pitches, and that was in a 17-inning game, so it really didn't matter.
Yeah.
Which is a great game, right? At the beginning of the year. There's nothing better than sitting through 17 innings in Miami.
Yeah.
How many people were left in the stands?
12.
Like a half dozen? Okay. Right. So you guys don't have any other concerns, right? I mean, it's flip-flopped. You guys have said that before, where your concern was the bullpen, but they're coming through at this point in time. You're a little bit more concerned with your rotation.
Offense. No.
Sorry.
Right now it's the offense.
I do need Adderall.
So inconsistent.
Situational hitting looks terrible right now. I mean, no problems really getting guys on base. It's moving them over and getting them in. It's having guys on third with no outs and he's still there. And, lead off doubles and the guy's still standing on second at the end of the inning. I mean, hasn't been very good making contact when they've needed to make contact. It's been a lot of strikeouts and a lot of pop-ups and ground balls that just haven't been able to get the runners going to the right spot. So
that, and also I think the big surprise has been all the guys who you would have thought would be the concern as far as batters, right? The guys that you weren't quite sure of, they're the ones who are playing well. And with the exception of Bryce Harper, the guys who are playing well, or I'm Bryce Harper, game's on, with the exception of Chris Bryant.
Oh my God.
Well,
you can't separate the two.
They're practically inseparable. I mean, they are.
Well, he's got a dog named Wrigley. I mean, he does.
But with the exception of Chris Bryant, all the hitters who you would have thought were going to be doing well have been struggling. Rizzo hasn't looked particularly good. Ian Happ, who was on fire in spring training after literally leading off the season with a home run, has been bad. Very, very bad. Swinging balls out of the strike zone.
With like a plus 50% strikeout rate.
And like arguably the three, other than Chris Bryant, the three most locked in hitters on the Cubs, at least as far as the quality of their contact, are Addison Russell, Ben Zobrist, and Jason Hayward. Now, Hayward's not getting the results you'd like, but the last I looked, he was leading the league in hard hit percentage. He has the highest percentage of hard hit balls among anybody, with at least, I think it was 10 plate appearances. So he is barreling the ball. It's just not falling right now, but that's just a BABIP thing. Eventually that's going to regress to the mean if he keeps hitting the ball as hard as he is.
You know what? And if you're right. And if he does keep doing that, the BABIP gods will shine down upon him and hopefully he will start finding those gaps there. I mean, if you're Joe Madden, I think you're happy with what Hayward has done, and I think he's gotten a little bit more. I think he's gotten more at bats because of what he's been doing.
I agree.
So Paul DeJong, 15 strikeouts. 15 strikeouts already.
And obviously, again, small sample size, beginning of the season, but boy, doesn't that make us all look stupid when we said I'd rather have Paul DeJong than obviously you didn't, but no, I'd rather have Paul DeJong than Addison Russell. I mean, I agreed with you, Ron.
Yeah.
And right now we look like fools. That's not a surprise, but
here's a strange thing.
Well.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I said
accepted you.
Was okay.
I accepted you for
all
that.
Right, so,
I said Ron, you and I.
Okay.
Well, if you look at Paul DeJong's whole line, he's batting .303, so he is literally like a hit or a miss. I mean, a hit or a miss.
He's three true outcomes.
Yeah, I mean, there's no ground out.
Nope.
There's a hit or a strikeout. I mean, that is it. So, but his line's not too bad. His on base percentage is on a 340-ish, but I know his average is over 300. But he has struck out 15 times against one walk. So
not good.
It's only 9 games, but it's like, wow. I mean, he went at one point in time, struck out 6 out of 7 at bats.
Oh, wow.
Can we fairly call this the curse of Ozzie Smith?
No, but you know what I will say is,
I mean, since we had the curse of Ron Santo for so many years for the Cubs.
No, I think that'd be a bad idea. If we, but you know what the comforting thing was, though, looking at the Cardinals lineup, even on day one, you looked and DeJong was batting back in the 7th slot, which is what unexpected, to be honest with you guys. He was back. He was there. He was a lot of the times he was in the 3rd hole. He was in the 3 hole last year, or he was 4 or 5 because they just had nobody producing. And you look this year, and he's behind Yachty at 7, and I'd rather see him back there at this point. But again, this is maybe a little bit of a plate discipline problem. But right now his defense has been solid. So if you can get that pop from your shortstop, you can at least get solid defense, not spectacular, but solid defense. I think right now it's not really causing an issue. The player that had an issue with the other night, Pete, was Colton Wong. Colton Wong's not, he didn't play particularly well in spring training. He's not off to a great start, but today, I got to say, he came through today. There was a runner on second, one out. They had the shift on him. And instead of trying to hit a 3-run home run with only one guy on base, he went to the left side and poked one through and got their only RBI today. So Colton Wong was going better last year when he was going to the other way with pitches, taking what the pitchers give him. And he did it today. He didn't do it earlier in the week, and I was a little pissed at him for doing it.
He did it today? I thought their only run today came on a Yachty bomb.
No, it was a Colton Wong
that
RBI
was
single.
yesterday.
Yeah, Colton Wong RBI single. But he hasn't been off to a great start. And he was my pick this year that would break out. 9 games in, he still has an opportunity to do it, but I'd like to see more from him. He's batting in the 8th hole. So basically what you have when you have DeYoung, Wong, and then the pitcher up, you really have kind of a black hole right now at the end of their lineup. And I don't mean not a good black hole, like never see a ball leave the plate area black hole. Or in Colton Wong's case, the exception of today, it's a pop up or roll it over to the right side. So
I was wondering where you were going to go with that.
Yeah. Black hole reference. I wanted to get one. I've been waiting for months to get that in. So hey, do you know who's leading? Which team is leading? Don't look at your computers. Look at me.
So, in other words, look at our computers.
No, don't.
How am I supposed to look at you if I don't look at my computer?
Don't have another window up. Don't have stats up.
Okay.
Guess who is leading the National League in average and runs as of right now?
Runs scored?
Runs scored.
Philly.
Wait, as a team or an individual?
As a team.
Well, yeah, the Phillies hung 20 last night.
Yeah.
They're still not the
it's either the Phillies or it's Pittsburgh.
Nah.
No?
Atlanta Braves, 62 runs.
Are you serious?
Gosh. Wow.
The Chicago Cubs with 39, the Cardinals with 36.
Those are the top 3?
No. Pittsburgh is second with 58.
And they haven't even faced the Marlins yet.
No, Pittsburgh is God, how shitty would Philly have been had they not hung that 21 game up? They hit 42 runs, man. They've scored.
They scored their runs in one game.
Were they booing then too?
Probably.
Yeah.
They're probably pissed that they didn't get to 21.
Probably.
Because somebody had some kind of blackjack prop bet and they failed.
So Atlanta right now is tearing it up. They're at 285 average. Pittsburgh 283. So Pittsburgh's right there. They're tearing it up with them. We picked these guys, right, to be last. Well, I would pick Atlanta. I think we pretty much said the Marlins would be dead last in that division, but the Braves weren't going to sniff the playoffs. So 9 games in, man. I'm not changing my mind. No. Now, hey, yeah, my favorite, San Diego. How many runs have they scored? 30. Dodgers have only scored 29, gentlemen.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're
the Dodgers have not looked good.
4-game losing streak right now, aren't they?
The Dodgers are off to their worst start ever.
Good.
Ever.
Excellent.
As we were told, powerhouse Dodgers, who were
of course
the second best team in baseball. Unstoppable.
Right.
Off to their worst start ever. And I got to see one of those games.
Yeah.
They hung a lot.
Hey, how was it?
How was it? Dodger Stadium's cool. I'd never been there before.
Mm-hmm.
It's very cool. The one thing that TV doesn't do justice is to just how massive that grandstand is behind home plate. Because it's built into the side of a hill. And so it can be gigantic, and it is just immense. But the outfield is so small, obviously. You don't really get a sense of the stadium unless you're in the stadium. If you've only seen it on television, it's not like Wrigley, where when you see Wrigley, you kind of have a good sense of what it's going to be like when you actually finally get there. Mm-hmm. That having been said, I still prefer Wrigley. But so this is something I found out. Third oldest stadium in baseball. So it goes Fenway, Wrigley, Dodger Stadium. There's a 40 or so year gap between the second and third oldest stadiums in baseball. Not expecting it, but anyway, we had good seats. It was good to see the Dodgers play the Giants. I mean, as I told Ron on Thursday night, if I'm going to go and see a stadium that I haven't been in before, I want to see the Cubs play in it. But if I can't, then my second choice is going to be for whomever the is.
Whoa, you're all right.
You all right?
That one came out of nowhere.
Okay.
I want to see that team's biggest rival, and why wouldn't you want to see the Giants and the Dodgers? Now, would have been a hell of a lot more fun if I had been able to see last night's game, because holy shit! Hello, Andrew McCutcheon. Welcome to the Bay.
Yeah.
6 for 7
pitch walk-off homer.
3-run home run. The last person to have 6 hits in a game and walk off with a home run. Gentlemen.
Babe Ruth.
Ron.
Shohei Ohtani.
One, you said his name wrong. It's Shohei Ohtani.
Oh, yeah.
And
I said it like a man. That's right.
Now, come on. Give me a real guess.
I'm going to say, and it's probably going to be a Cub. Rizzo?
No, sir.
Zobrist.
The last person to do it, Andrew McCutcheon.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know. You threw me off because coming from you, I thought you were going to throw a Cub name at me.
I think it was like 12 years ago, something like that. But yeah, I saw it last night. The last person to do that was McCutcheon.
No kidding.
Yep. Pretty cool.
That's good to see from him.
Mm-hmm. Started the night out. I think I read hitting 083, and by the end of the night, I think he was up to 285.
Of course, I'd rather seen him not traded and do that tomorrow night against you guys. Would have been better.
Not going to happen.
Well, it would have been a walk-off anyway, but maybe go ahead.
Right.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So,
Tommy Pham.
Yeah. Tommy Pham.
I have to tell you, my opinion of Tommy Pham is evolving.
It is for a lot of people, man.
Yeah, it's evolving. There's a part of me that still thinks that he's a little bit of an arrogant dick. And you're a little old to be throwing out 30 numbers. But that having been said, can't necessarily blame him for what he said in that SI interview, because you're absolutely right. I'm tearing it up at AAA, and you're not calling me up. You're calling up these other people. Now, that also has to be balanced with, motherfucker, you've been injured a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very true.
But I can't blame him. He worked his ass off, and he was actually doing it, and he wasn't getting a look.
Yeah. And so the example, I believe, that when this happened, I think it was well, first of all, if I remember correctly, out of spring training last year, it was Jose Martinez that made the club out of spring training, and kind of he was fighting Pham for the last spot. I don't think anybody could argue, though, come out as Martinez at it. Huge spring training last year.
I think the bigger issue, though, wasn't Martinez. It was Matt.
I think it was Gritch. Well, sorry, I didn't hear what you said. Say it
Matt
again.
Adams. The fact that you put him out in left field and tried to make.
Oh, sure. Yeah. And you're probably right. Now, I don't know, but did Adams have any options to go down, or did they have to DFA? Probably not. Whereas, again, it's one of these things. This is like we're looking at with Flaherty right now. There's only 5 rotation spots. Mm-hmm. If you pull him up, somebody's got to go down. You're not going to send Jordan Hicks down right now. You're going to send a bullpen guy. Well, Flaherty's not a bullpen guy, so that does you no good. And I think last year he kind of ran into the same thing. And I think the other thing that would have exaggerated this frustration was most likely it would have been Grichuk's performance, him being up. Now he had options. Grichuk did. So. Speaking of Grichuk, guys, Dems 2018. I'm doing it again.
Get this guy an Adderall.
This hit me today. I'm speaking of Randall Grichuk because we all know he was dealt to the Blue Jays, along with Aledmus Diaz. Now the deal didn't happen at the same time; they were dealt at different times. Diaz also dealt to the Blue Jays. last year, free agent signing from the Blue Jays. Go back to 2011, big deal at the trade deadline. Colby Rasmus, they had enough of him, had enough of that shitty bullpen they had, made a big deal with the Blue Jays. White Sox were a little bit of a part of that, right? It was kind of a three team trade. And then go back to, damn it. There's another deal too. And again, it was, Scott Rowland wanted out of St. Louis. Mozeliak found a spot for him. Blue Jays. There's something about the Blue Jays and John Mozeliak. I don't know if he's just comfortable dealing with that club, if they're comfortable dealing with him.
You see that a lot, though. If you look, there are general managers who develop relationships, but it's a different GM there at this point,
right? I know, but there's a comfort level with the organization. Just because it's a different GM, I'm not entirely familiar with the Blue Jays organization, but I would imagine that there was probably something that carried over there that made it easier. But it's happened with the Cubs, with Jim Hendry. He was. He obviously had a comfort, right, with Pittsburgh Pirates. Theo and Jed have a comfort with the San Diego organization. They've made several deals with them.
Brilliant San Diego organization.
Yeah, and I think that happens. And also what I imagine is it probably develops because you make that first deal, right? And so you're scouting each other's organizations and you're trying to put together a deal. And you've got a handful of prospects who are in mind and a couple of prospects who you really like. And so you continue to keep an eye on them even after that deal's complete. And then when the next opportunity presents itself, you already know who you've got an eye on from both directions. And so it facilitates it and it kind of speeds things along. Besides the fact that you're probably not going to deal within your division.
Here's where I was going with this before you made sense of it.
Yeah, sorry.
I'd probably stay away from Blue Jay arms for a while. So I'm not telling John not to deal with them anymore, but maybe just stick to the bats.
Arms should only go one way. Sun long.
That's right. See, another tie in there. But it just struck me funny to him. Like it seems like that's his well he goes to when he has to get something done, or he has to sign. But he's like, what has Toronto got? I like that restaurant. Let me keep going back there. I'm a creature of habit.
There you go.
Yeah. Always stop at the same gas station every time.
He really ought to start calling Seattle because everybody knows that Jerry DiPoto is ready to make a deal.
Yeah, it's been 9 days, so I'm sure he's ready to do something.
Not sure who I want from Seattle right now.
Ichiro. No. Another outfielder.
No. So yeah, no, we were talking about, of course, Tommy Pham.
Yep.
So the way I read into this, Pete, was he recently, right, he rejected an offer from the Cardinals.
Can't blame him.
Wasn't really contracts. No, I don't blame him for doing it either. But I think it might have opened up a wound. I think when that happened, and he's betting on himself. Been on here before, and we've said that don't blame the guy for doing that. And I'm rooting for him to have a great year, and to at least have one payday while he's a big leaguer, and I hope he gets it. But I think with that said, let's give him a little bit more time here and see how he performs this year. His comments like that, are they helping out in the clubhouse? Are they creating a rift with the organization? Maybe the organization created it, but I just say, like, okay, hopefully those kinds of conversations or those comments, hopefully they're done by this time. I mean, I think everything's out there now. And so hopefully they can just concentrate on playing. He can concentrate on performing, and we don't have to hear about this kind of stuff anymore. We all like him. We're all rooting for him. The better he does, the better off we are. So nobody's rooting against him, but hopefully we can quit hearing about this kind of thing and they can just play. And we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens when, he comes up to the end of the year, where he ends up. But just for me personally, I'm kind of done hearing it. I know he thinks he's good. He was really good last year. Prove it again this year, and you'll get paid for it. Until then, I'd probably just shut up.
Well, as long as he can call anybody in the Cardinals organization a motherfucker, I think, just as long as he doesn't call Yadi Molina one, because then Yadi
Great
Molina,
transition. That's a
Way to
transition.
segue.
right?
Yeah.
That is
Wait a
why I aspire to be. I tell you what, we found out today one of the unwritten rules of baseball, which is if you call Yadier Molina a motherfucker, he can push an umpire, and the umpires actually say that it's understandable.
It's okay. Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, this is a motherfucker
That
clause.
actually came out. That actually came out after the game. That the umps are going to write it up in their report that he's blameless for making contact with an umpire multiple times.
Well, they brought him up into DeWitt's tower before the post game.
Maybe they did.
And you don't really see Bill. You see kind of like a halo of him. And just like nothing but a bright light on that ump. Bill doesn't even have to say anything.
Cardinals freaking voodoo, man.
It
Cardinals
is Cardinals devil magic, man.
voodoo.
Because you look at it, right? Last year,
Anybody else would have been ejected from that game and suspended like 5 games.
no, forget about even being
fined.
ejected. Wilson Contreras loses his shit and throws his mask down, and it inadvertently bounces into an umpire, and he gets suspended.
2 games.
2 games.
2 games.
Yadier Molina willfully pushes an umpire, and the umpire apologizes for him.
That's the way it should be.
Yeah, of course. Sure. That's the way it should be.
That's the way it should be.
There should be a double standard for the Cardinals.
Yes.
And
Yes.
you watch. Maybe he'll get a fine.
He should get a fine for that.
No, he should get suspended for making contact with an
you
umpire.
didn't let me finish. You didn't let me finish there, Pete. This is Cub Rage coming out now. So I'm looking at this objectively. I really am. I was being a smartass before. You're displaying Cub Rage. Step back for a second. He probably should be suspended for 2 or 3 games for that, or whatever the precedent is for pushing or doing it, whatever it is to an umpire, whatever the precedent is. Probably should get that because, yeah, I mean, who did you think was right there between you and the manager? Now, yeah, maybe you saw nothing but white hot flash of fury, but that doesn't matter. You made contact with an umpire. So I'd be a little surprised if something a little bit beyond a fine doesn't come out of this. It probably should, no matter what the umpire's report is. It's right there on video, guys. Umpire can say whatever he wants. I would think baseball probably shouldn't let something like this slip, especially with the tempers and the sensibilities of all the younger players these days. They probably shouldn't let something like that go.
But they will.
I don't know, man. I mean, I really don't know. I think it would be no. I'm actually speaking this objectively, Pete. This is not Cardinal rage defending my guy coming on. I'm speaking this objectively. He probably should get a game or 2 or 3 suspension for making contact with an umpire like that. There's no other person that jumped between him and that manager. Now, let me step back for a second here. If that fucking manager came out and said something like that about a player from an opposing team, what the hell is that guy's problem? So I know he's pissed because the umpire made a shit call. I mean, it wasn't a strike.
Right. So Fox Sports Arizona, and I didn't get a chance to listen to it because I was on the road. But I was reading the tweets. Fox Sports Arizona they actually caught some of the ambient audio when they were talking about it after the fact. And Lovullo got ejected right away. As soon as he came out of the dugout to defend his guy, but in the course of doing so, he started arguing balls and strikes. And so he got ejected immediately. So he was already out at that point. But he was making his argument to the umpire. And reportedly what he said is something along the lines of, you can't continue to let him turn balls into strikes. And I obviously nobody transcribed it, and I haven't watched the video, but it sounded like it was something along the lines of, he's been motherfucking doing it all day, or this motherfucker's been doing it all day. And that's when Yadi lost his shit. Mm-hmm. And I agree. He probably shouldn't have said it, but you know what? Yadi, he
wasn't necessarily calling him a motherfucker. He was just saying that motherfucker's been doing it all day.
And it's unclear from the audio exactly what it was that he was saying, whether he was referring to Yadi or whether he was referring to to the game that he plays as far as.
But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You guys know in the heat of the moment, once a player hears something, even if they think they hear it, most are going to blow their top, right? And this is not the first time that Yachty has come after somebody when he thinks they're doing something. Remember Brandon Phillips in 2010? Right. All he did was tap him on the shin, saying, "Hey, buddy, whatever." And then brawl broke out. Johnny Cueto spiked Jason LaRue in the back of the head. His career was over. Yep. So this is not the first time. Cardinal not even Cardinal fans. Any baseball team loves this about their player, though. When their player defends themselves or defends a teammate, fans of those players love that, right? They love to see it. So we only know what the players say after the game, and I haven't read a transcript or actually heard audio on field of what was said. But once a player thinks they hear something, that's probably something like this is probably gonna happen. But to go back, I'll say it again. He probably should get a suspension of some sort for making contact with an umpire, because he did shove the umpire out of the way to get to the manager.
Shove the umpire into the manager.
Well, that's okay then.
Right.
But no, the point is, no, there probably should be some type of suspension. And I only say that because not that I want Yachty to be suspended. I don't. But just think about all the sensibilities about these players these days. You can't, once you give them a window or an avenue to do shit like that and you allow it, what are you going to do to the next guy that actually does make contact? Or your example you gave, you throw down your helmet and it bounces up and hits an umpire.
Right.
Once you open the door to something like that, it's just you're opening yourself up to criticism and appeals and all kinds of stuff later, because they're going to point back to this case and go, look what happened here. Now you're going to suspend my guy for doing something the same or a little bit less. Yeah,
but the justification is, but Cardinals.
No, this is Cub anger coming out, man. You're invalidating
this is yourself. Objective truth. But Cardinals.
Subjective truth, right?
No, okay. Definitely
hacking. Excuse me.
We're not going to go back there again. Right. What else do we have on the agenda tonight, fellas? I know that we're still really early. I think just overall, 4-5 is not the record any of us want to see at this point.
We're 5-4, and you guys are 5-5. Give yourself some credit.
We are 4-5.
Oh, you're right. That's the
4-5.
5-5.
We are 4-5. So not the record we want to see right now, but at a 9-game stretch sometime in the year, you're going to go 4-5.
Yeah.
Anyway, so it just happens to be at the beginning. So
that's the only reason that anybody notices it, right? Is because it's early, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. If at some point in the season, even the Pirates were going to go 7-2. It's just that it happened at the beginning of the season.
I didn't think they would.
Yeah.
I didn't think they would.
5-4 road trip. That's the way that I look at this. It was a 5-4 road trip. You come home, you had a winning road trip. There's some things that you weren't excited about. Schwarber not looking great, but not looking terrible.
Boy, speaking of Schwarber, I don't know if you saw his at bat in, I think it was maybe the 4th or 5th inning. He fouled one off into the 4th deck. He yanked that thing over the first baseline and into the 4th deck, man. That's a man's foul ball. Holy crap.
So I didn't get to watch the whole thing. So
can we get a J-Hay update? Because I'm looking at his line right now. It doesn't look terrible, but you guys have seen more of his.
He's scalding the ball.
He is killing the ball.
So he's batting .222, so he's just getting unlucky at this point.
Yeah, it's all BABIP.
No, so Schwarber 172. That's about right. But let's proclaim it, please. He's going to be a monster this year. Michael.
He's in the best shape of his life.
That's right.
Well, then automatically translates to results.
It does.
His at bats doesn't look like last year. He doesn't look like he's struggling. I think he's just it's just a slow start. Yeah. That's kind of what it feels like right now.
What about Javi Baez's first? How's he looked? No, I'm looking at a batting average of 148. 148.
Javi's
it's because he hasn't hit a home run yet, right? Once he hits a few home runs, he'll like, okay, shit, okay, I can.
Well, that's the thing. He hasn't been good at the plate, but once he's been on the bases, he's been electrifying.
Oh my god!
You see Pete's eyes roll back in his head when he said electrifying. Let's play that in slow mo. We got to get that video clip. Yeah, and you said Rizzo's off to a slow start, and it looks like
and he's been out since what was it, Thursday? I think was his last game with some
yeah.
And it sounds like he's not going to play tomorrow either. So he's going to miss 5 games, 6 days.
Yep.
Probably a pretty good chance that if he's not feeling better when he wakes up on Tuesday morning, that they'll throw him on the 10-day DL and backdate it.
Yep.
All right, so it looks like no other concerns. Contreras is.
He's doing well.
Solid average. I mean, he's
280. He's got what 10 hits right now. He's 2 behind Bryant, who's leading the team with 12 hits. Bryant is locked in.
Oh.
I mean, it's like he's got the Ian Happ no smile thing right now. He is all focused on baseball right now, and it's
there must be something to that. Just
fun to watch.
Not enjoying what you do. It must just be.
Just all business.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why Bryce Harper's doing so well right now. Although I do have to say he just struck out to end the previous inning. So he now has as many strikeouts as home runs. So maybe he's back down to 400 million instead of $500 million.
Yeah. His 1500 OPS right now.
This could be, I'm not looking forward to another off season, guys, but that is going to be an interesting topic to cover when that time comes. That is going to be talked about a lot.
You are going to have 3 huge stories right off the bat. Does Clayton Kershaw opt out, and just how much do the Dodgers drop in order to keep him?
Mm-hmm.
And then where do Machado and Harper land?
Yep.
Yeah,
they're going to be the 3 big stories of next year's offseason.
And you changed course a bit. You said that Machado might be the guy that you would pick to go after.
Would be. If it was up to me, if I was the GM, I'd be targeting Manny Machado to play shortstop for the Cubs.
How much do we think he's going to rake next year? I mean, what do you think his contract's going to be like? I mean, if Harper,
I don't think it's going to be in the Harper range, but I think he's going to get paid as well.
He'll get paid.
Especially
do
because
you think somebody's going to wait on Harper to sign somewhere before Machado, or are they going to try to get that done quick and not?
I think Harper's going to go quick.
Yeah.
I have a feeling because I think everybody got their ducks in a row this year that at the beginning of the offseason next year, you're going to see all the phones are going to be picked up at the same time, and you're going to get busy signals.
Yeah, so. I think that they're both probably going to go quickly because their markets are going to be different. The Yankees are going to be in on Machado. I don't think that the Yankees are going to be in.
Totally different market
Harper
next year. It's going to be a totally different market on the teams that are in it versus this last year. I mean, it's going to be,
And I could very well see 3 markets developing where where the primary team for the top 3 free agents will be 3 different teams. I can see Kershaw's top team being the Dodgers. I can see Harper's top team being the Cubs, and I can see Machado's top team being the Yankees. I mean, as far as the leading contenders for those teams,
right?
Because it fills needs for all 3 teams. Because you could argue.
What do you think will go through Angelos's head?
I don't know that Machado finishes the season with the Orioles.
They're not going to deal him to the Yankees.
No, they won't necessarily deal him to the Yankees, although they'd be stupid not to.
Right. No, I'm with you on that. Yeah.
But never let it be said that Peter Angelos is a smart man. I think that finally Peter Angelos has to come to terms with the fact that Manny Machado is not returning to Baltimore, and he has got to get something for him beyond a compensatory draft pick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he's not going to accept that QFA.
No, absolutely not.
All right, gentlemen. I don't have any other hot baseball topics unless there's anything else that you must cover.
Well, apparently there's a new Solo trailer, but we can't get this stupid screen.
Man, I even put a Star Wars shirt on for that.
Oh, and
I feel like a jackass.
And I told you guys about my tickets and how I got those third row tickets behind the dugout, right?
Yeah, you did. You don't remember that, Drunk Elliot?
Yeah. I just wanted to make sure. It was the cheapest tickets I've gotten behind the dugout ever. I mean, paid $24 for the outfield, and then Brewers Miller Park has an upgrade system, and you do it through the MLB ballpark app. It was another $30, and I was able to pick the seats right behind the dugouts. So like $65 for right behind the dugout, and normally they're like $115. It was amazing.
So who did the one question? Who did the Brewers? They're 5-5, but they just went 1-3 against Chicago, and they just went 1-2 against St. Louis. Who the hell did they beat up on early in the year?
Well, and don't forget, it's not just that they beat up on I forget who it was, but also
Cincinnati?
Yelich got
He got hurt.
DL'd before.
Did he really?
Yeah, before the Cubs played him, he got put on the DL. He missed the entire series.
I got my answer. My favorite organization.
Oh, of course.
San Diego Padres. The Milwaukee played the San Diego Padres. How did I miss that one? How did I miss that, guys? And then they went on to that was the St. Louis series.
Yeah, and
that was the second series.
Before Yelich got hurt, he was 10 for 26, batting .385.
He's got to love playing there, though. I mean that. I know that Miami had a dome, but
that thing's a bandbox. It really is.
Airplane hangar.
Yep.
Nice one though.
It is. So you know what we could do, guys? We could sign it off for the podcast here, and then we could each queue up solo because nobody who listens to the podcast is going to care. So you can cut it short, Ron, and then we can all queue up solo on our individual things and continue running on YouTube, and we can comment as we go. What do you think?
I think it's a fantastic idea. Before we go to that, I wanted to.
You want me to read Ron's rants?
No. I'll give you fresh ones.
The first official Ron's rants.
So I'll be appearing tomorrow. I don't know when they release their podcast, but the guys from Meet Me at Musual. It's funny because I was reading their episode list before we had Daniel, who's a host on that show. We had him on a couple weeks ago. I was looking through their list of episodes, and they'd have a bonus every once in a while, but I noticed the bonus episode was always a Star Wars episode, like Star Wars only. It was Star Wars only. So I kind of messaged him, and I was like, this is really funny that you do, I looked at all these bonuses. I'm like, because the one thing Pete Elliott and I love is, we love Star Wars. It's fantastic. And, I explained the same thing, Pete. We chose not to do a Star Wars podcast. There's like a million of them.
Right.
And we would just be white noise. So I'm gonna appear on his show tomorrow on Meet Me at Musual. So look for that later in the week. We're gonna talk about
definitely.
Not that anybody, probably like 2 or 3 people that are listening to this that may know about it, but it's the Star Wars Rebels whole series recap. We're gonna be covering that tomorrow.
I'll not be listening.
I'm looking forward to talking about it. You will not be listening to that for a couple months.
I will listen to that.
All right. But yeah, no, looking forward to that. I know that Daniel was great to talk to on our show. He was the most sane member that night. I think he actually studied the questions and actually he was way more prepared. But I'm looking forward to doing that. So that'll be on tomorrow.
Outstanding. Excellent. So with that, I'll take us out. And before I do, let's make it official. The first episode of Ron's Rants.
Is this how we're gonna end every month now?
No. Just this week. Okay. In the future, we'll get a jingle and everything.
Okay. Cool.
And maybe maybe a classical music bed to play underneath it.
Or we could do the best trolling Ron tweet of the week too.
That would be a good one. All right, so here we go. San Diego is 2-6. Yeah. Hey, Hosmer, how do you like being surrounded by a bunch of Rule 5 teammates? You're lucky to be there because your organization was fucking dumb enough to deal Rizzo to the Cubs, tried to buy their way into contention, pushed out, and then traded them all. Honestly, I don't know which is worse, the body of work that is the entire Padres history or a Loria-led organization. What a shitbag team. When we're not online, you can find us at teamofrivalspodcast.com. On Facebook, just search for Team of Rivals Podcast. On Twitter at Team of Rivals Pod, and on Instagram at Team of Rivals Podcast. You can contact us at the show at teamofrivalspodcast.com. And you can contact Elliot at
TOR_Elliot on Twitter.
Watch us live on YouTube or catch us anywhere you listen to podcasts: iTunes, Radio Public, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Spotify, TuneIn, and Google Play. And just a note about Radio Public, we do have it embedded on our website. Radio Public aspires to be Netflix for podcasts through a curated algorithmic approach. By listening to us on Radio Public's app or through their online player, not only do you push us up their list of recommendations, but you also support the show by throwing some money our way. The best part is it doesn't cost you a thing. And of course, don't forget to visit the team store on Zazzle. Ron.
Sweet. Take that long drink. Thank you so much, guys. And I want to say thank you again to Chris Lawless, who supports us on his Facebook pages and his Facebook community. I also want to thank Two Birds on a Bat, because Jim, once again, gave us a shout out at the end of their show earlier in the week. So appreciate that and love those guys. Everyone, hope you have a great week. Gentlemen, we got to do this again sometime.
How about Thursday?
Yeah.
Thursday is just fine with me.
We are in the season, boys. Baseball.
All right.
Yeah, Thursday will be a good one. Thursday will be kind of the preview, because 8 days from today, Series 1.
That will be a series preview, and then we'll do a series wrap. I'm predicting.
Of course.
If it turns out in my favor. All right, everyone. Thank you so much. We love you all. Talk to you soon. Bye.